Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. Now, last week I didn't have an episode because I was at Emerald City Comic Con doing my thing, selling some books. So, if you want my thoughts on last week's haul, we do our Comic Book Weekly. We do that every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Comic Book Weekly. I'll leave a link for that last episode to check out my thoughts on news and my top 5 comics, and mostly talking about all the comics I had. And that does happen weekly, so you should check it out anyways. Please give this video a thumbs up, and also at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week. So let's get started. We actually had a pretty big haul this week with a lot of issue 1s. And what are we up to? We're at number 12 is Weapon X-Men issue 1. And this is a book I was looking forward to because I like the idea of getting to see different Wolverine characters hanging out together, but it really was just that. There's no reason that they're really all there. There's not a lot of chemistry between the characters, and I just felt like everything felt very muddled. It felt like a lot of exposition dumps. It was very wordy. It was a spin-off of the original X-Men book, which also kind of felt very similar, so it just wasn't my bag. I wanted to like it more than I did, but the clones and the alternate universes, I guess, still feels a little oversaturated from Marvel in particular. Moving on to number 11, which is Shazam issue 9. And this is, I think, the final issue of the Mark Waid run. Maybe we have one more issue, but I'm actually really excited to see Josie Campbell take over this book because I really liked her Mary Marvel. I was very pleasantly surprised by Amazon Attacks. So I like her voice a lot, and I want to see what she'll do with the whole Shazam family, especially because she's already played in that wheelhouse. This issue feels a bit like a filler, feels like it's spinning its wheels with the Creeper character hanging out with Shazam, and that's kind of it. But the moments that we get to see them together doesn't really intensify their relationship or the villainy / hero dynamic, so it just wasn't for me. I did like the artwork though, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing the new direction for this book. So that is number 11 for me. Moving on to number 10, which is a book I was really excited for, and that's X-Men issue 32. Again, a book I was looking forward to. I like Kitty and Magic a lot. That's the reason I was really looking forward to it. And they're in the issue, but their dynamic doesn't sing as much as previous issues with them and with Jerry Dugan. And there's moments with like Emma that like I had a fun time with, but overall it also feels like it's spinning its wheels. We're getting to the end of Krakoa. I don't really feel like they're building towards anything. It doesn't feel like this is the end, this is the final chapter. It's Lockheed comes back, that was fun enough. There's some interesting back and forth between the two characters because they thought they were both dead. That was cool. The artwork is okay, but I was expecting a bit more from this issue. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Then on to number 9, and that is Batman issue 145. A book that I feel like relies too much on its previous arcs that I just not jiving with. Like Failsafe is a big part of this issue. I was like, finally, we're getting a new arc. We don't need to deal with Failsafe. We don't need to deal with Joker's year 1. And all of that is in this issue. Which granted, if you've been liking Batman, you'll continue to like this issue. But if you're looking for something fresh, you're not really getting it here, and that's been a bit of a disappointment for me as someone who wants to be liking Batman, who liked the first arc of Chip Zdarsky's run, but I feel like it's lost itself along the way. There's some interesting visuals here with Failsafe being the new Batman kind of, and obviously you do still have that Joker and Batman dynamic, which feels a little overdone, and I don't know if they're introducing anything completely new here besides with the cliffhanger. Them going to Wayne Manor is interesting enough, but nothing is really singing to me here, except the art. I think the art is really good for this book. So I'm giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, and that is the Sensational She Hulk issue 6. This is a little bit lower than the previous issues. This arc and this volume has been stronger for me than the previous volume, but this feels very familiar to the previous volume. We get to see a lot of Jack of Hearts, a lot of She-Hulk. They hang out. more of the romance story, which I like a good romance story. I just don't know if I like them together. They haven't really sold me as a couple, and maybe focusing on them will sell me a little bit more, but it feels a lot of the very similar to what we've already been getting. I like the art. I like that they go on vacation. I like the lightness of this book, but it's not as strong in those previous issues where she's just hanging out with other people that she has better chemistry with. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, one of the bigger books this week, and that is Spectacular Spider-Man issue 1. I was a little torn on this issue because there's elements I really like about this book. I like just seeing Miles and Peter hang out. I like the introduction of this new supporting cast, which I believe is very important for a Spider-Man book. Humberto Ramos has some really good art here. But the printing feels really weird if you're reading this physically. Like, a lot of it feels very smudgy, and you can't appreciate what's going on the page, at least with my copy. And then I also felt like it jumped a lot because you're having like almost 3 timelines going on here where it's like, here's this happening, and then this happened in the future, and then that happened. And I feel like it almost over explains itself. So it's hard to balance this because I'm so happy to just have a very light comic for Spider-Man and just, again, having fun with these 2 characters that don't get to interact enough. So there's that part of me that's enjoying that, but the structure of the issue didn't quite work for me. So overall, giving it 3 stars. Obviously gonna see where this one goes, but as a premiere, it was just okay. Moving on to number 6, let's talk about the theme of this video. I was torn about this, and that is Ms. Marvel Mutant Menace issue 1. I like a lot of the beats here. I enjoy just seeing Zoe and Kia again interacting with Kamala, and Kamala adjusting to this new life of people not liking Ms. Marvel. A big difference to what we've seen in previous books of her being the friendly neighborhood hero, the friendly neighborhood Jersey City hero. I liked seeing the difference, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I just wish we were getting the Ms. Marvel stories we already knew and love, and her as a mutant is just not interesting to me. Anytime she went to the X-Men, I'm like, I don't care that much. I haven't cared about their Krakoa age, and I love Ms. Marvel, and I just feel like she doesn't fit in this world that much. But there are other elements that make me happy with this book. Again, the Ms. Marvel elements that just always do well with Kamala's story, like her friends and her family. So those are elements I like. The artwork is pretty solid too. So it's a bit of a torn issue, but overall, as a Ms. Marvel fan, I'm going to be reading, and it's not my favorite run, but it's not my least favorite run either. Moving on to the topic of the video, which is Ultimate X-Men issue 1. There are no mutants in this book. Yeah, this is an interesting issue because there's an idea of doing something different that I really like about this book. It's definitely more of a manga series, actually. It reads a lot like a manga, like a romance manga, honestly. And you get a lot of the high school Japan story here. You also get this kind of like ghostly story. This guy dying, her love interest, which I thought Armor was gay, so I was a little confused by that. But we get to see possibly her love interest die, and then she's related to this event because of her powers. But there's not a lot of X-Men here. Maybe in the future issues we'll see, wait, the reason she has powers is because she's a mutant. But it's not really referenced here. It doesn't really feel like it's gonna be referenced. There's no, like, team being formed. It really feels like a book that doesn't belong in Marvel. But also, that's kind of what I liked about this book. It's that I like that it was so different than what we've gotten from the X-Men and Krakoa and everything else that I'm like, all right, maybe it's not exactly an X-Men book I'm looking for, but at least it might cater to a different audience. I do want to see where this goes. I want to see where the character goes. I think they introduce enough plot lines that makes me interested to see what's going to happen in issue 2. But as an X-Men fan, I don't know how exactly you're going to feel about this one, because I don't actually think it's an X-Men book as of right now. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Birds of Prey, issue 7. I really like this direction, and mostly it's because we get to see Barbara and Dinah interacting with each other and them being the heart of the book, because that is really what makes Birds of Prey sing and makes it work. We get to see different characters that you normally don't get to see, like Vixen. That was a lot of fun, and they get to dress up in like bathing suits, so that was a fun little, I would say, like internet grab image where I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that being on Twitter for like 5 years from now, because that's just a cool image. So I like this one. I thought this was a bit stronger than what we've gotten, and I liked seeing these characters interact a little bit more than the previous team. And again, Barbara really is the heart of this book, and I'm glad that she's back. So I'm giving this 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, a book I was actually pleasantly surprised to see so high, and that was Gang War Daredevil issue 4. This is the best thing that's come out of Gang War, for sure. By far. Besides that premiere issue, this is something I'm just having fun with as someone who's not been reading Daredevil, because it focuses a little bit too much on Matt, the priesthood, that I wasn't as interested in. But this is Elektra, and she just has such a fun voice. That's what I liked about Chip Zdarsky's last run. It just felt really different. Is anything really happening in this issue? No. But is it a good character issue? Yeah, you get to see a little bit of Elektra's past, how she relates that to the current villain. Anytime they go back to Spider-Man, I'm like, this feels a little forced. But the Elektra story is really strong, and the artwork is really strong for this book, especially for the action. And I like just seeing Elektra's moral compass in this issue. So I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I think it ended pretty well. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Pine in Merrimac, issue 3. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I like to see their past. That was something I honestly especially enjoyed, just seeing how they became the detectives they are, and how our female lead left being a detective, how she reacted to death was really interesting. The thing I actually thought was a little lacking here is the main story with the sex cult that's not a sex cult storyline. I was like, oh, I'm not as interested in this as just finding out who these people are and what makes them tick. I also still think the artwork is a little bit too bright, but I really was fascinated by her past, which is why it's so high. Like, those moments really, really grabbed me. And it's a lot of the issues. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to my pick of the week. It's actually half a reprint. So if you've never read Spider-Gwen, go ahead and read the other half. But it's giant size Spider-Gwen issue 1. I was a little worried about the reprint aspects. So I was like, oh, how much story are we going to get in the other half? It's like a regular issue. Obviously, it's a little bit more pricey. It is $6.99, but honestly, I like the story enough to kind of waive the price tag away. Because this is just a good book. I really love Flores' voice on this book, and I really love the miniseries with Spider-Gwen. I will say the release schedule is a little weird, so we're getting this issue, which is the end cap of Spider-Gwen, but we haven't gotten the last issue of the miniseries yet, so I think they released it a little weirdly. But honestly, I don't really feel like it spoils too much, unless nothing happens in that last issue. But a big part of this issue is MJ and Gwen's relationship. I like that they do as much as they can with the queer relationship, at least from what it seems. Like, they're not gonna say Gwen is bi, which, you know, I would love to see that, but they're really telling us Gwen is bi, which I think is fun, and I like seeing their relationship and their will they, won't they, and they kind of leave a door open for it too, where MJ's like, I got stuff to figure out, you got stuff to figure out, we'll meet again and kind of figure this out. Again, I wish I had that last issue to know what that final conversation was. I feel like there is that missing piece of, like, they definitely, something happened in that issue to kind of get us here. But I just liked seeing the music aspect. I like seeing, especially the action of the band, because you don't get to see the singing as much as you do in the miniseries, but you get to see the action, and you get to see a lot of threads that were played in the mythology of Earth 65 in that last volume play a part here. The Dr. Octopus character showing up, and obviously the Carnage character as well. So I like this issue. I thought it was really solid, and as a Spider-Gwen fan, I'm gonna miss this volume, but I'm also excited to see what the future of Spider-Gwen is gonna bring with an ongoing book. So giving that 4 stars, that's my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book of the week was. Since I didn't have an episode last week, we don't have a viewer's pick of the week, but next week I will. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.